Afternoon. Welcome to our latest webinar, One Job, One Timeline. This webinar is specifically about the integration between Clarus and Qargo TMS. Just want to say quickly that we've had over 70 sign-ups today, so this is a bit of a record for us. Obviously, showcases it's our third or fourth time around now. People are obviously starting to get the message and start interested in the content that we're putting together, which is great. It also proves that the philosophy we're taking on board is really resonating with the audience. So specifically around how to use softwares and interesting connections is one of the things that we're focusing on, and it seems to be really landing with you, which is great news for us. Quick bit of housekeeping. We want to just let everyone know that there is multiple ways to get questions into the team. One is through the question and answer facility on the webinar itself, but equally, if you want to drop a comment on the LinkedIn Live, we've got people that will be picking those up and they'll make sure that that gets across to us. So feel free to drop them in at any point. We'll be answering questions as we go, but we'll also be making sure that we answer any questions in detail at the end. Okay, to that end, we're now going to do some introductions. Obviously, if you've joined the webinar before, you will recognise me. My name is Craig Robinson. I'm the COO of Clarus. We have quite a few people on our webinar today to get a real breadth of insight. The first person is our Head of Solutions, Matt. Do you want to go through and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Yeah, Matthew Butter, Head of Solutions at Clarus. I've been with the business 5 years now, but previous to that, I was in logistics and operations since I left school. So there's probably not a job I haven't done, to be fair, which puts me in good stead for this job. It helps me to understand what you do, and I've probably seen it before and understood all of your headaches and the extra hours that you have to put in to get stock out the door or stock in the door. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
Great. And Sam?
Yeah, so I'm the Business Development Director here at Qargo. So I've been with the business since we kind of started our launch within the UK, some 4 odd years ago now. Before I was with Qargo, similar to Matt, I worked within the industry, so much more operationally minded than I am technically so, and definitely seeing the on-the-ground effect of some of these systems and what it's like day to day, and what the actual impact this stuff actually has to the end user is. So always excited to see the new stuff coming out between all of us.
Great. And then over to our shared customer, Connor.
Hi, yeah, nice to meet everyone. I'm Connor. I'm head of IT in Road Truck Services and a bit of operations now as well. Previously, I worked in nearly most aspects of infrastructure IT, and now quickly moved over to operations. So I had the system side, and now I got the hands-on experience. And we've been using Clarus for the past 3 years, and Qargo for about nearly a year now at this point.
Great, thanks, Connor. So we're going to open up with a bit of a structured panel questions just to kind of introduce the concept, and then we're going to move on to a demo from a live demo in a mirror environment. So just to open up, Sam, let's go to you. In terms of big picture, can you share why Qargo chose Clarus in terms of being the kind of facilitating the TMS and WMS as a single entity?
Yeah, of course. So I suppose it starts from the conception of Qargo generally as it is, and the concept that sits behind us, and very similar with yourselves there at Clarus. I think from our side, we've kind of come into the industry with the goal to innovate and kind of improve the efficiency of everybody's operations through these old long-standing platforms like TMS. It's not a new concept, it's not a new system, nor is WMS, but we're taking a new approach on how that all operates. As a result, seeing you guys doing a very, very similar thing within the WMS space that we focus on very exclusively within the TMS space made a lot of sense. And I think oftentimes what you see is the best systems end up kind of getting to the same places over and over. So we over and over kept bumping into each other through shared customers or customers that were joined and had gone through similar go-to markets where they look at different solutions. So it made obvious sense to try and talk to you guys, and the more we spoke to you, the more we realized that the ethos you have as a team, as a business, is very, very similar to ours. And then naturally from there, through shared customer growth and shared business growth, we started to collaborate more and more. And that kind of brings us to where we are today, where we're starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together in terms of logistics and connecting more and more of these kind of core systems throughout transport and the broader picture.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really strong points that you reinforced a few times there, is that it's not just a partnership, from a purely commercial point of view. We just kept bumping into each other. We ended up having a conversation out of need rather than anything else. We had a lot of customers that were shared, and then obviously the customer's need is critical to both of our kind of success. So it's great to see something like organically blossomed rather than being forced. Matt, you've obviously been in the logistics industry for years now. From a practical standpoint, how important is it to have your WMS and TMS fully connected?
Well, I've been in it long enough to remember when we used to do transport planning on a bit of paper with a pencil and an eraser. And then numerous conversations between warehouse and transport of who's done what, where, and when is it going to be ready, is the truck back, etc. So having your systems that talk to each other and they talk to each other quickly means that it reduces the flow of that conversation. Everybody can see what's going on, whichever respective system you're using. You get from the WMS source of truth where the order is coming into, what needs to leave. The TMS immediately see what needs to leave and when. It can get planned and a truck added to it, and then that information gets fed back. And depending on what information you need, you can then via the WMS plan your work through the day. So you know what needs to be picked first, what needs to be at the bay first, because it's got to go travel the furthest, or you know what kind of vehicle it's going to be on what bay, your idea of the size of the order, and the capacity it's going to take on your warehouse resource, trucks and people and time. So I mean it's massive compared to what it used to be, and the requirement for ripping up a transport plan and starting again is virtually erased, which that headache is real for those that don't have the systems that talk to each other. And to be able to do it in a way that you put one lot of information. If you've got the interface that creates the sales order automatically, which sends to a TMS automatically, you've got one guy doing the plan, which sends the message immediately back to the system, and the system's configured in a way that it's standard process within the WMS. It takes the headache out of it. It takes the thought process out of it. You're just doing what you've already set up, tested, it works. Yeah, it can take a lot of that headache. It doesn't take all the headache away, because there's such things as traffic and containers not turning up at a port, etc., which you can't control, but they become exceptions, and you're only dealing with the exception. So 80% of your day it just ticks along, and that's what it gives you. And that's a bonus if you're managing a large team or a large warehouse for that matter.
Yeah, like you said, it's the main thing there is that it takes away the headache, but you can imagine the amount of hours, like man hours, that used to go into these processes that now is literally cut down to minutes, if not seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a poll that's live, and the poll is: how do your WMS and TMS currently talk today? Is there no connection, some automation, mostly automated, or fully automated? What we're trying to get here is a real good understanding of the level of integration that people currently have, before we even start to showcase what Qargo and Clarus can do together. So if you've got a second, just jump in, and I would be really appreciative if you can jump in and engage with those polls, because it's going to give us a real kind of steer into how much we can show on this webinar. In terms of the next step, Connor, I'd like to bring you in. It'd be good to kind of understand kind of life before this kind of single rail approach, one job, one timeline approach. So you obviously lived through this transition, and at RTS, what were kind of the biggest operational headaches that you faced before everything, when it was all separate and siloed?
Yeah, well, as you know, we lived through both the warehouse system and the transport system. So before we moved on to Clarus, we were a paper-based warehouse system. As you can imagine, it was very hard to track stock, have traceability, know what was where. And eventually, when we got with Clarus, it was night and day in terms of efficiency and picking. The biggest thing, and it still reigns true today, is since we've moved to Clarus, we have a 99.9% stock accuracy, and that's reigning true for 3 years straight. So we're looking to continue that, which, you know, looks great for our customers as a 3PL. When we moved, we still done transport, but the customers that we had at the time were very regimented and very structured. So we had the same delivery locations on the same day at the same time. It was, you know, a headache for the start, but eventually we got into some routine. As we grew and new customers came on board, we started doing deliveries to one-off locations, and then it was our per transport team were working till all hours of the night. Matt made a very good point there of, you know, nothing worse than having a plan and having it ripped up by one order coming in, and having to start over from again. You were relying on Google Maps to look at it. We were relying on an Excel export from Clarus. It did take time, and many times our transport team were there till 7, 8, 10 o'clock at night, depending on the day and depending on what was going on. So when we managed to integrate with Qargo, we have a normal shift now. Our transport team have set times, and we can nearly guarantee every day they'll be out at that time because of how much time this has saved. Visibility from the order being created, having all the information readily available in Qargo, and then Qargo also double checking the address and reference it against Google Maps is a massive feature for us when we're doing house delivery locations or new businesses that have set up. So definitely having the two of them, we've seen the benefit in the 10 months that we've been using both linked together. And it was one of the requirements when we were looking at a transport system that we had something that linked into Clarus already. I was trying to avoid any export or manual intervention from the information coming from one system to the other, and it managed to find one, and it's been working great for us since. Our customers are overjoyed, and we can give them full tracking from the moment that stock went into the warehouse to the moment it ended up at that customer's door. We can give them a full timeline of every product, and that in itself is so important to us.
Yeah, ideal. I think that's one of the things it's always nice to hear. But I guess, Sam, from your point of view, it's probably something you hear quite a lot of. Is it the same, the reduced headaches, increasing time capacity, also, you know, reducing that pressure as well? I guess the transport team, just like the warehouse team, usually they're probably one of the points of pressure in a business in terms of if something has to be done that day, you know, they stay until it's done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And having the teams work so closely together now, a lot of this system integration has removed any of the guesswork to where something has gone wrong. If it has gone wrong, you know, we can pinpoint exactly, was it, you know, they said they picked it and they didn't, or did we say it was going on a truck and it was there? We can tell straight away, and saving time on troubleshooting means you can resolve the problem. You know, that's all that matters to our customers. We try to give them the best customer service we can, and having the two systems and full traceability and also visibility of every step of the way allows us to do that.
Perfect. And Sam, from a cargo point of view, is that something you hear across the board?
Yeah, it's something that comes up really, really frequently. I think something I always say, and to bear in mind, is none of us are here to revolutionize transport or warehousing, in the sense that, yeah, the actual action changes. You still have trucks on the road. You still need the shed with the racking and all the pallets moving around, but it's about streamlining and automating where the communication happens. I think all of us have walked around a conference hall now and seen all the different systems that people are starting to come out with that help in some capacity, but a lot of the times they're limiting if they're not talking, because you end up with 2, 3, 4, 5 different screens open, 5 different tabs, 2 different departments of your operation who can't accurately and efficiently communicate. Whereas once you bring them together, you have kind of best in class from a WMS side, best in class from a TMS side, and that kind of transition of information. Your end result is exactly what's been described there, which is this automation of less paperwork, more effective visibility across the business, and ultimately time saved, more effective, more efficient operation, and a lot more time back to the people that matter in the operation, and that always trickles back to a customer.
Yeah, exactly. One of the points there you referenced, that, you know, we've all walked around an expo in our industry and saw everything, all the cool robots and automations, and it's a lot of little good things that happen in the industry, but equally there's quite a lot of them have high cost entry, and they probably, while they might improve a specific task, they tend not to be great doing upstream or downstream unless it's organized by that system. So, for example, automated racking looks great in principle, but realistically, they're not a software business; they're a hardware business. So the actual picking process is really quick. Getting data in and out of the system is where you lose all the time. So it's one of the things that's definitely coming in the future. But if we can get to a point where the systems that you are using right now are making your team efficient, you're going to get the most win quickest. Connor, going back to you, we're going to jump into the system now. Are you right to take us through the transition and show us an actual real life case of how something goes from a sales order through the planning process and into Qargo?
Yeah, no problem. Let me just share my screen. Let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, got it.
Perfect. So just a couple of things to note before I show this. These are the two test systems. I have a test system in Qargo and I have a test system in Clarus. There's a slight delay on the orders coming in. I think it's about 3 to 8 minutes. But on a live system, it's about 20 seconds, if not quicker, for when the order gets generated. So just to note. And then also we have multiple customers importing their orders automatically into Clarus. For us, we use a combination of the API calls and EDI, which is kind of like an Excel import. We use them. We never really manually create an order anymore. It's all done through our customer systems, and that goes for receipts and goods coming in to the sales orders as well. So I'm just going to show you what a manual one is, but there's a couple of fields that I'm going to be filling out, and that's just because on the system side it replicates over into Qargo, and it'll make more sense when I show you in Qargo. So I'm just in our mirror environment here. I've gone into goods out and I've gone into sales orders. So I'm just going to hit on new here. I'm going to just put in a reference. We'll just call it order 116. We have Clarus as a customer now, so we must be holding their stock. We'll put the delivery date for tomorrow, and then we also have carrier codes that will determine a 48-hour or 24-hour delivery, or if it's some rural site. We have these agreed with our customers, so they can put these in and it will calculate for us. So let's just do next day delivery because it's the 28th there. For the customer address, I'm just going to throw in the Dublin County Council in Ireland here. Let me just manually type this out for a sec.
While you're typing that out, one of the things to flag in Clarus our side is, I guess, Matt, you're probably the best person to talk about this, but just the level of flexibility we've got when it comes to most of our fields and the extension fields.
Yeah, generic fields. We have generic fields that you can use whatever you want it to be. And using those fields, whether it's against the stock itself or against the account or against the sales order header, the beauty being that what you see is available in the API. Because it's in the API, and obviously we connect with Qargo via the API, we can send anything and they can receive anything. So if you're doing something, I'd say weird and wonderful, different from the norm, we can use those fields and then we can send those fields, and Qargo can do something with those fields and then send something back in those fields if necessary. So yeah, it becomes quite powerful in that respect. You're not kind of locked into the black and white and it must be this one way of working. That's what everyone expects it to be. It's, if we've got to make some amendments, we're able to. And that's...
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm going to show exactly just what you said there exactly now, because we have a few custom fields set up and test. So one of them for us, we have a customer where it's very hard to determine a pallet size based on the units. It looks like it might fit on a pallet and then it ends up just overhanging a bit, and we need an oversized pallet. So we've used this load reference field, which will equate to the pallet spaces in Qargo to help with the planning. So we'll just put down 3 for this, and I'll show you that in Qargo. We're also using some of the custom fields that Matt mentioned. We're using string 3 and string 4, and this is just, there's a PO number that our customers need to provide on the proof of delivery documentation, and there's also their own unique reference that they have for their customers. So we're storing both of these in Clarus to then send this information over to Qargo, so their customers can see everything they need to see. So we're just going to type in 1234 for this, and we'll type in 1001 for the PO number. And then when I go down to products here, we're just going to add 3 products here that we have in stock. You can see I have 9,000 of them in stock. and I will. Perfect. And we'll just say we're taking 300 of them. We'll take 40 of the organic shots, and we'll take 150 of the protein bar cookies. So once I'm here and the order is created, I can save it, or I can save and process the picks. And this will allow or open it up to be able to be picked by the workers in the warehouse. So I'm just going to hit on save and process picks here, and then perfect. So now what that handshake is happening with Qargo. Normally, if I logged into Qargo now in our live system, we would see that order already, but there's a couple of minutes of delay. So while we're waiting on that delay, I'm just going to move over here, and I'll show you what it looks like on a handheld. So this is just what the scanners see in our warehouse. So I just have it on the computer just to show you exactly what picking looks like for us. So if I go in, we'll see it's this order here I've created, and I can go into the picking lists just to show you the real-time update. So now that I'm here, the way we do it, there's plenty of ways, and I'll let Matt talk about them, but we go into pick and we say from order list. And what this does is it shows everything that we've released to pick for that day. So I can see here that I have 2 orders for 114, but I know I have 3 lines, so that this is the one I'll be using. And we hit select, and then it's going to ask me to scan. So when you book in stock into Clarus, unique barcode per product gets generated, and this is what it's looking for to scan here. So this is a label that we have on our products that our pickers need to scan to say they're at the right product. So I'm just going to hit next, and it will generate one for me. The next step is then they have to go to this location. Again, we have a barcode on each location that they have to scan. So essentially, if you can imagine that I'm after scanning that, and I'll just put it in there, and then I'll hit next. And right here, you can see now I have the product code and the product description of what I need to pick. So on every product, there's a product code, which is another barcode. So there's 3 scans and 3 checks that are happening where we normally wouldn't have had that before. And if I just scan this, it's going to tell me how much I need to pick. So I know I have 792 and I need to pick 150. They come in boxes of 1,000. So we have our pickers manually take them out and count them. And then they're just going to enter in that they've picked 150. And once I'm done with this one and I hit next, it's going to ask me to do the next one. So now it's going to ask me to scan the next one, which I'll do. It's going to tell me to go to this location, which is, again, I'm scanning a barcode. And now you can see here that the product has changed. And if I just scan the barcode there, there's 360 available, and I need 300 at this specific location. We have them stored. There was 9,000 just stored across multiple locations. So I'm just going to go through. And now that I've done 2, I just want to show you in test here. If I was to refresh this page, I can see in real time that I've picked, or that the picker has picked 2. And this is something from an operation point of view, you can see, you'll be able to see this, and you can see it on, if I just go into picking lists, you can see the progress of every pick, which is huge. You know, you can see when an order, if there's an urgent order that someone gets a call for, they can see where they are on the line and they can push it forward. Or if you're looking for just to see the efficiency of it, you can track this as the day goes on, and you'll be able to see exactly where, and you can set this up where you can see the picker as well. So I'll just go back into this. And again, this is just one way of using it. This is how we use it. But once I'm done, I'll let Matt talk about the others. And then it's just the last product here. So once again, do this. Once again, we're scanning the barcode. And once again, we're confirming the quantity. And that's the order fully picked. And you can imagine when you're scanning, there's no copying and pasting. It is very quick to scan. Now, Matt, you saw how we do it. I'm sure seeing multiple customers, there's plenty of ways to do this. If you want to talk about some of the others, I can click in to each option if you want.
Yeah. Obviously, what kind of showing you there is the configuration we've done for them specifically. There are lots more buttons, and not every button we have is on everybody's implementation. The beauty of our HHD app is we can configure it based on what you need it to be. So, I mean, we've got versions, for example, the picking flows. If you go into picking for me on there, Connor, they're the options that RTS have got. But we've got other options we can use. We've got by carrier and by carrier service, for example. So if you were managing your orders and your dispatches using external carriers or on different services, we have the option to split that pick by that carrier. So if you knew, for example, that you've got a particular carrier that does the north of the country and you're in the south of the country, and therefore they need to be done first, you kind of work with your local process there, and your users can go, well, I know I've got to do that carrier first because that's going to turn up at 12 o'clock today, and I'll get those picked first. Once they're done, I'll move on to the next carrier because they'll know they're coming later. We can even use, what would be really good on here. So Connor was talking about load reference. So, you can have pick by load reference. So if you have a specific load reference that you bring through from Qargo, you can use that load reference to capture all your orders together and say, well, this load reference needs to be picked as first because it could be multiple orders. And that could be your starting point for your picking flow. So essentially, the point is whatever fields we're adding are those what we used to call generic fields or the standard fields within the system, is be able to use them somewhere within the flow. And if it helps you step through your process and get things picked more efficiently, then we can do that. And that's the beauty of that application. And it's forever evolving as well. It's just getting better and better. So every field we add, we can surface it within the app and we can use it in whichever way we choose to use it. Yeah, same for receipts as well. You can, receipts, you can receive more than one way on that standard receipt process, or you can do a receipt by product, for example, which is if you were doing a container freight, and we all know that containers are never stacked in the way that we want them to come off. It's never all in one product. You've got one product at the back, and the next quarter of that container is product 2. The next quarter of that container is product 3. It's normally all the products all slapped together in the back of the container, and then you have to sort them as they come off. So we've even got a flow for that where we can define how many we're expecting. We can count as we go through it what has been received and what's left to receive, and allow you to kind of shift between your pallets, because we all know what a bit of a nightmare that is.
That's a good point. And I guess, Sam, from a sales point of view, the level of flexibility that's in Clarus, but equally with Qargo, and the fact that we can pass over pretty much whatever data we need to for any instance, how much or how valuable is that from a sales point of view when you're engaging like new customers?
Unmute myself at the beginning. So it's hugely beneficial. I think anyone that's been in transport for long enough knows that there's no two operations that function the same way, that call the same thing. I think everybody's very, very unique about how they like to put things together. They have different customers, different needs. The transport or the WMS in that case calls for different requirements. And if you don't have that flexibility and instead you're offering something that's a lot more rigid, it just makes it either impossible to use or you're forcing people to use it incorrectly. And that's often what you see when you go into these operations that have been around with a single way of working for a really long period of time, is they found a workaround, because everybody fundamentally that we talk to and that we deal with in this industry, they're problem solvers. Everybody that will have joined this call with in some operational capacity day in, day out, that's really the job, is it's solving problems, right? So if you're faced with a rigid system, you solve it by figuring out a way around it. We don't want people to work their way around it. We want the system to operate the way it's intended to, and to solve the problem up front and right there. And if you don't have that customization, it just it can't happen.
Exactly. I guess moving one step ahead of that, you've got from a shared customer point of view, if you're trying to sell your services, having that flexibility to say yes more often is a massive benefit, both in terms of the TMS and the WMS. If you know that you've got the flexibility on both sides to make sure that if a customer wants to have a certain process or a certain flow or extra checks, all of those things can be done, and gives you a real competitive advantage in space. Okay, going back to Connor, we should have had now the data transferred. Let's continue on with the rest of the demo.
Yeah, no problem. Let's just go back in. So let's have a look here. So this is Qargo, and this is what Qargo looks like here. You can see I have my orders here. And if I just go into order imports, I can see that order 1115 was created. That was actually 6 minutes ago. So there you go. And this created okay, and there was no issues with it. And if I go in here, you can see that it has the address here. just in the UK, it assigned, I must have typed in the error code wrong because it's assigned to the UK, but that's okay. I can fix that and I'll show you how. I just created one earlier just to showcase what happens if a customer puts in the address wrong. Qargo has a reference. It references Google Maps just to make sure that the location is right. And this greatly benefits us when we're delivering to houses and we're delivering to new businesses and the such. So I just put in here where I purposely put in the wrong address. So this is your kind of main screen. I literally just clicked over to order imports. I can click on this and I can click fix order data. And it's just telling me that this address, either it can't be found or one we've put in doesn't exist on the system. And all I need to do is I just need to click on the delivery location, click down to this yellow box where it's here. And if I just type in Crystal Air, it comes up with the address. So it's referenced to Google Maps and it populates the address for me. And then I can just hit save on this. So now I just double check that this is the correct address, which it is. I can see it on the map where the pin drop is, and this is what our drivers see on their app as well. And I can see that it's just around the corner from us. And if I hit save, that order has now been fixed and it's generated and I can plan it. So if I just quickly, so there it is there up at the top. So if I quickly jump into planning here, this is kind of where you live and breathe when you're trying to plan the routes. I've just added myself and a truck down here, and I've also added a job because I want to show you how easy it is to modify a job that's already been planned. You don't have to scrap everything. So I just added in, I have a few here, and I've also added one collection in from Clarus, which I just want to show you. It looks different. So there's Clarus there, and it's a collection from Clarus to us. It comes up as a triangle instead of a normal delivery, which is a square. And then these numbers in the middle are the pallet spaces that each order takes up. So you can see straight from the map how big an order is. Like I can see this one's 10 pallets, but it is close to us. I can see this is 2 pallets, and there's a bit of customizability on how big or small you'd like them to be. And you can do it by weight, you can do it by pallet spaces. It's entirely up to you. So we just have this here, and if I just click on, so there's multiple ways to route. I can click on them like a little puzzle, just click on each order, and I can just add an order in here, or I can click them here, and I can either click or I can drag and drop. So now I have this route I just want to show you. So I have this route here to Galway, but say I'm going to Cork instead. I can just click on Cork. I can just put it in here, which will do the collection and the delivery. I hit save, and now it's added it in that I'm going to Cork first and I'm going to Galway second. Say now there's another run for Galway that someone else is doing. All it takes for me is to drag and drop this back in here for it to unplan. And Matt will know from previous experience doing it on paper, that's a huge time saver there. Having the ability to modify it real time, and this just really greatly improves the efficiency of how you use transport and routing. So now if I click into the order, so I'm just double clicking on this here, it just opens up the trip for me. And I can see that it's 227 kilometers with a total of 3 hours and 20 minutes driving to get to this location. And I can see if there's any tolls. It calculates the tolls for me as well. So I can also do a bit of cost calculations here and look for the better routes when I'm routing. There's also an optimizer built in, which you can click optimize to optimize the routes, and I'll show you that shortly. So let's just add in 2 more drops here. And we'll just add it, and I'll take this one away when I save. So now I've saved, I'll just take this one away. And you can see how quick it is. The system's instantly responding. So now when I go back into this order here, it wouldn't make sense for me to go here, then back to the depot here, and then to here. You can see that it's 13 hours in total, which is too long for a day. I can manually change this by just moving from hitting edit route here and moving them up and down to how I feel, or I can hit optimize route here, which will optimize it in the fastest route. So I'll just click this and I will show you when this thinks about it. It is quicker on live, it's just a test system. And this will optimize the fastest route for us. there you go. So it wants me to go to the depot, then to Cork, and then to Galway, and then I can just hit save here, and that route is now done. You can see it dropped to 11, which would be about right. I think it's 3.5 hours to here, and another 2 from up there. So, and that's how quick it is. We also then, I'll just show you on that order that I created earlier. I'll just come back here. If I go into this one here. So we have the PO number stored here and the reference number stored here from the extra fields in Clarus. So we're using fields that are hidden away from our regular users, but they are populating in here, and all this generates helps generate into a proof of delivery. So I'll just generate a blank one here for you so you can see what it looks like. If I just open up this, you can see that it's collect from us. There's the reference there we put in. It has all the information, and then it's named and signature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go back into planning, and I'm going to send this to my, oh, it's not set up. I can just complete this. So I can just say we've sent it and it's complete. And if I just complete trip times here, and we'll just say we're going to complete just 1 for the moment. I just want to show you what it looks like. So you can see this change from blue to purple. Purple means it's in transit. So now the driver is ticking along his route. So he's in the middle of doing his route. And there's plenty of fields you can see. You can go into stops and you can see the full trip that we have here. Or when you're on the planning screen, you can see it. And if I was to complete all trip times, this now goes fully green to show that it's completed. So it was 3 minutes in a test system from when an order was created to when I had visibility on this. There is no delay. You don't have to wait for the warehouse to pick every order, so you can do an export to then put it into a different system. You can route in real time. We have planners now that are looking at this screen all day and just modifying the routes as they go along, because it's so quick and it's so easy to do. And we don't have to do it all after a specific cutoff time. We can have the routes done and easily modified within minutes if we need to, if something comes up that absolutely has to be done. And you can see here, there's a ton of filters the same. I can filter by, I'm only showing orders that are due this day, but I could filter by, I could show everything to see if we can get more deliveries on or whatever. And I can see down here that there's, if I just go into this trip, I'll just show you. If I just move across, I can see that there's 12 pallets in total on this order. So you can route very easily, and all this information came from Clarus. There was nothing I had to do in Qargo. And yeah, it's just having the 2 systems talk just allows us to work in real time, and there's no manual intervention.
Great, that's the main time saver here. I guess, Sam, from your point of view, when you're looking at the TMS side of things, where do you tend to see the ROI come from?
What, specifically just on TMS, or the collaboration between the TMS to the WMS?
Yeah, if you look at the TMS, then we'll discuss the WMS and then kind of bring it all together, I think. Yeah,
of course. So yeah, from a TMS perspective, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of those, you're not going to revolutionize and change the fact that you need wheels on the road and the truck's actually moving. So you're never changing that fact, but what you are doing is incrementally improving all of these massive time save areas. So a huge part of what we do is automation, right? Whether that be through the new AI tools that we released that automate some checks like with PODs or documents or validations against documents to make sure that they're right, which normally and historically take teams a huge amount of time. Whether we look at the efficiency from a planning perspective, so like Connor's just shown there beautifully with the optimization, taking large subsets of orders that need to get allocated out and being able to do that in a really efficient and really quick manner. All of those are massively time saving, and they're also beneficial in that they're much more efficient, and they tend to obviously have less errors. And the benefit and downstream effect of that is your planners, the operations, the members of the team that get to obviously then work off of that now have the benefit of more time. I always use this phrase like panic planning, where people obviously come in, they normally have so much work to do in a day, not enough time to get it done. And so what they're really doing is just getting stuff completed, and they're getting stuff on the road and they're getting it delivered, which is absolutely fair. But they're not necessarily giving themselves that 2-3 hours in the day of breathing space where they actually get to sit and think, what's the best and most effective way to do this plan? Did we execute yesterday as well as we could have? Were there some things that we left that probably could have been done better? Or Had we had the time, would we have changed how we kind of actually executed the day? So those are all massive impacts that obviously I would say from just a pure TMS place we see. But then there's also the ancillary bit of connecting systems. So we integrate across the board about as heavily as we possibly can in all areas. And basically the impact of that is suddenly what you'll find in the transport office, you have multiple screens, multiple systems, all with different bits of information on. You have planners and CS teams and managers and everybody else in between desperately trying to piece together a picture of what's actually happening on the road, what's being asked of them of their customers, and how the two of those actually come together to be effective and efficient. And then when you bring all those systems together like we have here, and we have these integrations, and we start getting the relevant information shared between them, you suddenly have one screen where you can see all your comms with the customer. You can see, how that has impacted your warehouse team from a pick perspective. You can see what it does to your driver, and your team are no longer trying to piece together this incredible jigsaw puzzle of what's in the warehouse, what's arrived, what hasn't, what's on the road, what's delayed. And instead, they're able to look at that one plan board that we just looked at there that Connor was sharing, and at a glance be able to tell, I see what's going wrong, I see what's going right, I can manage the exceptions now, I can deal with that, and I can get that time back. So I think summed up, it would be a time-saving device, but there's an awful lot in between there that you see that kind of comes into play there to help as well.
Absolutely. It kind of fits really nicely into what we see WMS side as well. Matt, what about you from WMS? Where do we see the real ROI wins?
I think if you kind of boil it down, it's, you know what you need to do first. I've lived in operations where, you don't get your transport plan because they don't know what they're doing yet. If you don't know what the transport plan is, you don't know what to pick first. Do you put your resource into receipts first, then you run out of space on goods in because all of a sudden you get a transport plan. You didn't realize that 6 of your orders need to be done now, and you've just filled the space up with the goods in. And it's having that picture that enables you to really think ahead. So the quicker you can get a plan done, the quicker you get the information, the quicker you can act on it. And you don't have to spend hours, just like Sam said, you don't have to spend hours trying to work out what it is you need to do and what is going on. That information is with you quicker. It helps you to plan your staff sooner. You've got to think about what staff do you need? How often in the past would you have to get, agency labor in, for example, just because you knew at some point you're going to be running out of time, so you need people to help you catch up. So you're carrying that extra cost. Can you do it in an efficient way where you manage with the people you've got? You can smash through your plan as quick as you can and get loaded on time, without the headless chicken aspect of who's doing what, where and when, what's going on, has it been planned yet, are there any late orders in? If it's a late order, how do we do that, and what truck does it go on? It's time. That's where the return on the investment is. It's time. Time's a massive thing, and it helps you think about other things. So the time you gain back in administration is, how do we make this better? How do we make it more efficient? So you're into change management, and managing by those inefficiencies and reducing that number at the top of your change management tree. That it allows you to do that without firefighting and trying to find the resolution to something that happened yesterday, and it happened the day before, and it happened the day before, but you're so busy you can't fix it. So they're massive wins for an operation.
I guess bringing that into real life, what we're saying here is that TMS and WMS both have the ability to massively reduce the amount of time it takes to action, whether that be through visibility or automation. I guess, Connor, going back to a real world scenario, we've obviously seen how quick that flow looks like in a demo, and that's you discussing every point of it rather than just doing the job, which is ultimately much, much faster. But in terms of real world application, have you seen any kind of ROI on the two systems combining together?
Oh, a massive one, Craig. We've gone, and Matt briefly touched on it, we've gone from reactive to proactive. We are now looking for the best way to improve. And before that, we never had time. I briefly touched on it earlier that our transport team, it wasn't uncommon that they were there till 10, 11 o'clock at night, just solving with the sheer volume of orders that we get. It just, we've saved so much time doing that. And also, there's a lot of things to be said for the two systems. Before, everything was pen and paper. If someone in the warehouse picked maybe the wrong color of the wrong unit or something. That could get to the customer before we know anything is wrong. And if a query does come in, we now have the ability to go, okay, transport can check it first. So they check, well, did the driver deliver it? Qargo gives you coordinates, which you can check for where the signature was signed. So, I've dropped it off here. This is where it was signed for. We can confirm all that's right. And then we can go back to the warehouse and say, hang on, would you just check? And the only error that really, if it was mispicked, is they scanned the correct product and they physically picked the wrong one. That is the only thing we've ever seen. And there is no way for Clarus for them to scan properly and pick the wrong product. Like we've been able to improve the system from when we first got Clarus. We've changed it tenfold, and it's the same thing is happening with Qargo. Every week we're constantly improving or finding a better way to do it or becoming more efficient. If we hire someone new now, it's very easy to train them, and the system is very user intuitive, and it doesn't take long for them to be up and running and start planning if we need them to. Having that is a massive benefit, and not having to spend hours and time training someone for months on end to get used to a system that's so rigid and can't be changed just to suit the needs. We have to be adaptable. Our customers' requirement is that we're adaptable in an ever-evolving world where everything is constantly changing, especially in the tech world. Everyone wants their systems to talk. Everyone wants them to do a specific thing or handle the data a bit differently. And both systems can do that with ease. We have multiple flows for multiple customers, and it doesn't pose any delay in anything. We've improved on our pick and time. I mentioned the stock levels being 99% accurate. We've saved hours a week, where now we can look at improvement, and our customer service overall has improved. We can focus on the customer more. We can focus on the odd issues that come up, and then we can focus on how do we make it better going forward. And if there is an issue, we have time and the resources now to mitigate it with the same staff we had before.
Yeah, one of the things you called out there is the the massive real world time saving, and where you can now apply that time that you've saved to to generate additional benefit. I guess one of the things that I know a lot of people that are on this webinar will be interested in is, like, what does that look like in terms of actual numbers? I guess we've seen the flow from a sales order through to executed in TMS. How long do you think that would have taken you before the systems were in place?
Before, it was easily taken about 2 to 3 hours for us to gather and collect all the data. And then not only that, we had to then manipulate the data into a structure for another system. And we've easily saved half a day every day of 2 people doing this. So, you're talking about a 70% increase in efficiency in just their jobs where they needed to get data from one to the other. Now we can, we've been able, we had 1 planner, and now we have 3, and we can assign them to each contract now. So we have different customers. We give them an individual person because we have the capability to do that now. We didn't lose staff. We just gained the resources, and they have the time to spend at this customer. So the way we've operated, we give one, like an account manager nearly, to this customer, where before it was all hands on deck, all trying to figure out the best way to fix it. And yeah, easily a 60-70% increase. And that goes, the same goes for picking. Picking does not take long anymore with the scanners. You saw there on the demo when I was talking about it, you're talking less than about a minute to pick that massive order. When I was, doing it from a system, they're picking 100 units. They can take boxes of it at the time. They're not picking individual ones. So that in itself is another statistic. And then also our customer service, our SLA has gone up to about 98%, and we're constantly improving that. And not that it was too low that we were worried, but we want to get as close to 100 as possible. And having the 2 systems has allowed us to fix the small issues that might go underlooked because we just don't have time. Matt hit the nail on the head there. You're constantly firefighting. You never have time to actually look at the root cause for some of the issues. They're just so minuscule. You fob them off for the next day, and then it happens again, and then it happens again. Now, the first time it happens, we straight away go into investigation. We then do a change management, and we mitigate it going forward. And that speaks for our customers. You know, we don't change and we don't improve because we just want to annoy people. It's the demand of our customers, and it's what our customers respect. They're evolving for their customers, and we're just doing the same in kind. And the adaptability of both systems gives us that tool and the ability, as you mentioned earlier, to say yes more often. I haven't seen something that have been asked of us that we haven't been able to solve. And you know, it's a real deal breaker for our customers and ourselves.
I mean, it's a glowing reference for both companies. I guess one of the things to call out here is that you've only been a customer for 10 months or so. Sorry, you've only been live for 10 months or so. So I guess the main question that jumps out to me is, what would you say is the bigger benefit? It's probably a bit of a catch-22 question, but is it the improved internal peace of mind, i.e. you know you've got the backing of the system to be able to deliver more or to deliver to a better capability, or is it the perception and professional image that's generated by you improving your output?
It's a bit of both, I would say. Having the two systems and being able to talk statistics on, you know, I can, if a customer asks, okay, well, we send you a product, how do I know where it's gone? And I can say, well, hang on, I can tell you the day it was received, who it was, the whole way to when we delivered that product. We never had that before, and having that and having the exact location where it was delivered, it looks really good. Qargo also have a customer portal. I know yourselves do. The customers can log in, but they have a customer portal where they can log in and they can see live statuses of the deliveries and stuff like that. And that's something now we can offer. And in a world where dashboards and everything is becoming more common and everyone wants a nice dashboard to give them their information there and then, Qargo has that. And, you know, we touch about it later, but Clarus is also working on that as well. So the professional image, it's a big benefit. It really is. And to have a system that we're not worried about, like I'm not worried about security because they're both software as a service platforms. I don't have to host anything here. There's no worry that, you know, if something goes down, it's going to be someone firefighting on my side to try and fix it. Having that the security of it, and also, you know, we can just rely on the software is a big benefit. And then for us using the systems, we like the change. We like to evolve. We like to look for the better. We like to look towards the future. We're doing a lot of things for environmental. We have a couple of gas trucks now that we're using. We've had them for a few years. So being able to, like, Qargo can show us the CO2 emissions. It can show us, you know, everything. We get a lot of information from Clarus, and then based on that information, we can then look, and based on the weight of every product, based on the height of every product, we can determine different vehicles. It just, having them to talk, you don't realize how important it is until you actually have them talking and working the way you intend. I can't fault them. Yeah, we're only 10 months, but in those 10 months we've modified it a lot, and it works to what we need it for as of now. But we're always looking for new ways.
Yeah, and I guess that falls back to the thing that we've been discussing on this webinar, and it gives you the flexibility to be able to react, constantly change, and spend that time. I guess that's the main kind of crux of what we've all been discussing is, you know, time is money. So where are you going to spend that time to make sure you get the biggest reward? And if we're going to spend that time, then we might as well use it in the system and make sure we're getting more out of it, because, you know, the more time you can spend improving your processes and making sure your systems fit the new processes better, the more you'll exponentially get a return. We're just going to move on to a second poll. So the second poll is, what outcome would move the needle most for you? So if you're watching this webinar and you're on live, the options are, it generate less admin, it would increase visibility, it would reduce the amount of calls we're taking, or it would generate faster billing. So if the question is, what outcome would move the needle most? So if you were to do one of those things, what would move the needle most for your business? It'd be really interesting to get your feedback on that. And I guess moving on to the next section, when we look at kind of opening it up to the floor, what's really the next biggest thing when we look at the WMS and TMS integrated together? we want to look at the future. Yes, you've everyone's just seen how the flow works and how fast it is and how configurable both systems are. But I guess handing over to Sam, what's the next biggest thing coming from Qargo's side in terms of that integration?
Yeah, of course. We have a handful of things that we've got currently roadmaps that we're looking at as well. And I think a lot of our roadmap is dictated from our customers. So I always say we kind of follow the sniffer trail of our customers, and between them and the kind of R&D side of Qargo, they find hopefully will end up being the holy grail of kind of TMS and integrations with ancillaries like yourselves. But from our side, I think we've got three kind of ones that we'd bring up from today's perspective. So one would be more flexible order import triggers. So obviously it'll be an extension to what we've already got, which will allow a kind of like pick list, for instance, to trigger the pull through of orders into Qargo and vice versa. So it makes things a little bit more smooth from that side and widens the scope. We've got load building upgrade. So we'll obviously do a richer set of instructions that we'll be able to share into the WMS. So when we are building loads, we'll be able to share more data through to Clarus in that regard, so that when it comes to actually building the back of the truck, you guys have the information that's been put together from the actual planners themselves direct through and into Qargo. And then the other one would be kind of a TMS leading flow for the kind of cross stock and kind of general transport driven parts. So from that perspective, it'll be us being able to share much more data pushed into Clarus, and by that I mean sharing trips that you guys on your cross stock will be able to then execute, so that again there's even more seamless integration between what's being displayed to the forklift drivers in that regard, and what's coming from the planners direct out of the office, as opposed to just pick sheets or order confirmations being pushed through into the system.
I guess, and from Matt's point of view, operationally, you see the impact of this day in, day out. Just those little things, like we've discussed ourselves about how we can better work with the information from TMS, especially when it comes to pick planning and making sure that we're utilizing that time, the guys on the warehouse floor, efficiently. What's the kind of things that instantly come to your mind when we look at those three integrations that Tam's just mentioned? Sorry, Matt, I think you're muted still.
Apologies. From my point of view, it's about information. Having that information of actually what's happening and who's made a decision on it, and bringing that across between teams. It's there for everyone to see. No one's chasing that information. No one's looking for who made that decision, because like Sam says, if that's within the message that comes across, and then we can deliver that to the user at the back door of the truck who's loading it, then that's fantastic. And similarly, it's for us, for anyone that's followed us on LinkedIn or elsewhere, and our own AI journey as well, and the automations that we're going to have, and being able to do something when something else happens and define what that prompt is, so it just does it for you. It's the power of technology and where technology is going. It's remove those button presses and the typing. If someone's already got that information and they want you to do something with it, send it to you on that sales order that we can then create and send across to Qargo. We then do something with it and add a note to it and send it back. Without people having to understand what the SLA is for the customer, or don't forget that customer needs a pallet with double wrap on it and a triangle on top that tells you what it is, and don't double stack it. Having all of that where you're not reliant on knowledge at the back door. That in itself is massive. And you've got to think about how that creates easy SOPs, or systems of work locally, how you train, how quickly you can onboard, how quickly you can flex your staff when it comes to a peak period, because you don't have to get them in 3 weeks before to train them on how the system works. It's fairly straightforward, and the information is in front of them on a handheld. All of that is massive, and all of it is doable, and it's getting easier and easier and easier to create. So the future is bright as long as you jump on that bandwagon and keep going with it.
I love the transition there. Speaking of bandwagons, I know you made a really brief mention of it, but the AI, obviously Qargo have released their AI integrations, and it looks like it's been heavily adopted. Sam, how's AI transition work for you?
Yeah, I think the AI stuff, it's a huge boom everywhere in everyone's life, isn't it? So it's an easy buzzword, but I think we're applying it cautiously, and very intentionally across the platform in all the areas that we know it's going to have the largest impact. So we're kind of going low-hanging fruit first and then expanding it as we go. But generally speaking, I think like everybody's day-to-day life, it's such a good tool when it comes to interpreting large amounts of data and being able to take an awful lot of what otherwise would have been busy work or work that just eats time but isn't necessarily particularly skilled, and is able to then go and take that off and just give you guys the responses. So if we look at POD validation, for instance, being able to immediately look at the document that's been uploaded to a job and scan the reference numbers or the delivery addresses, are they all matching and validating against the job itself, or even as far as being able to allocate a trailer. If you want a driver to take a picture of the trailer, and we automatically allocate it by using AI to scan the trailer number and the pictures. So there's all these kind of low-hanging fruits ways in which we've already applied it, and as AI gets better and the adoption gets even more so from our side, will only expand and improve kind of what the downstream impacts are to Connor and the rest of our customer base.
It's one of the things where it's very easily banded around as buzzword, but it's how you apply it. I guess from our point of view, we've got this real focus on making sure that when we take our first steps into AI, that we are applying it in a way that is actually useful to the end user, rather than just adding a chat bot. Connor, you saw a really brief glimpse of our AI assistant that was it's in a testing environment at the minute. What do you think in terms of the initial impact? I'm just conscious that we've got not a lot of time left, but it's one of the things that we're going to focus on in the next webinar, and it'd be good to kind of give an introduction to people that might want to jump on and watch that one.
Yeah, a big thing from what I saw is we've been asked a lot lately to report on KPIs, but more in depth than we have been. We have manual exports that we're running queries on, but it looks like that API is going to be able to take exactly what we need directly from Clarus and give it to us in a clear and concise way with the graphs. You showed me a table there. Having that is going to be a big help to us because, as I said, we're exporting, I think, 4 or 5 different exports from Clarus at the moment, and then they're running through a macro to get the information that our customers have asked for. So if eventually when that does come and I do get to test it, and I'm hoping it's sooner than later, I'll be able to try that, and hopefully it looks, from what it looks like, it's just gonna hit the nail on the head, and I'm going to be able to report on everything we need. The other option there you were showing me, that I can create orders and things like that, that's going to be a big help. I know from looking at me there, it took only a couple of minutes, but if there was somewhere where you couldn't do that and you had to manually create, that's going to speed it up tenfold, and I'm looking forward to that. And just to touch on Sam, just a very good point in a real scenario Sam mentioned on the traceability of stock where and when, and the time saved. We had an issue where the wrong unit was actually packaged, not from our warehouse, but the wrong unit was actually from a supplier, was the wrong unit inside the box. And it took us maybe 10 minutes to go back to our customer and say, hang on, it's actually a manufacturing issue and not us. Before, how long are you going to spend looking? We were able to check that all the barcodes matched on the product, that the right product was delivered, that the scans were correct in the logs for Clarus. We were able to check everything. It took about 10, maybe 15 minutes for us to know for certain that this wasn't our issue. It was actually a manufacturing issue. So, you can imagine how long that would take normally. That's just a real life example when you mentioned it, just reminded me.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the things where, realistically, it's all about transparency. And if we can get that transparency and it gives you the ability to react quickly, and again, time is money. Right, we're going to move into our last section here. Just before we kind of call for the final questions on Q&A, we've just been looking through the poll data. We've got a really interesting couple of things that have come out of the polls. There'll be some things to look at. So Matt, Sam, it'd be good to get your insight into this. Does it surprise you that the answers to our first question, like how do our WMS and TMS currently talk today? So how does people's current WMS and TMS interact? 54% said no connection whatsoever.
Surprising at all?
Yeah, not surprising.
You've got to think about the interaction between the two. We've just showcased how much time could be saved with that. If you've got to think about that half of the people that are watching this webinar currently aren't haven't got a connection in time, imagine how much money is sitting on that table that you could be, you know, utilizing right across your business. Really interesting one that came out of the first poll. The second poll, in terms of what outcome would most move the needle, again, I don't think it's a surprising result, but it'd be good to get you guys' feedback. The outstanding winner was increasing end-to-end visibility would be the thing that moves the needle the most. That's 55% of people voted for that. The second, in fact, everyone answered one of these two, but the second was dramatically reducing admin. I think it's basically what we've been talking about throughout this webinar. Doesn't feel like something that's out of the blue at all, but really interesting to see that people, you know, they obviously are aware that would move the needle. But there's a really interesting difference between the awareness of the problem and the lack of the solution when people are saying they've got no connection. Sam, I guess looking at your side of it, you obviously, from a sales role, you see this quite a lot in terms of engagement, but is this a common practice where people are aware of it and maybe don't have the time to put the fix in place?
Yeah, I think people are aware of it. They know it. I think there's probably a handful of reasons why. A lot of it is timing. If you have that much administration and there's that much going on internally, you tend not to have the most amount of time to sit in there and canvas the market from kind of a tech standpoint. I think also it's about, change. These systems that we're, on here talking about and that I go on the road and meet customers and prospects talking about, they're inherently very embedded within everybody's operation, right? They've normally been scaling with the business, or they've been put in a handful of years prior. Their team are used to it, their customers are used to it, and fundamentally they're the equivalent of, a beating heart of that business. The idea of ripping it out, transitioning, changing, putting something new in is very scary, and change is pretty uncomfortable for everybody at all walks of life. But to do it on such a massive level from both really integral systems on your transport side, but also your warehouse side, can be a bit daunting. That's why our onboarding processes, I think, from both sides are so in depth and so kind of so thorough. But I think most people are aware of it, and some people maybe a bit too scared to make the change, or unaware of how easy it could be for them. And for others, I think it might just be purely a case that they aren't aware, right? They might not know our names yet. We're still relatively new, I think, from both parts into the industry. We've not been around for 40 years. And so, it could also just be a pure case that some people just aren't aware that there is a solution to the problem that they've probably been, slamming their head against a wall for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess there's two things to round up. Just quick call it that we haven't got any questions so far. So if you've got a question, please get it in. We've got a couple of minutes left. The last question that kind of really calls out to, I guess, Connor, is probably more for you, is that, just based on what I've talked through there and what Sam's come back with, how did you find the time to put this solve in place?
It was kind of, especially when we went to Clarus, it was kind of like an ultimatum where we had gotten a new contract. They had come in and seen that we were paper-based, and they said, hang on, you need a warehouse system. And we said, okay. So we Road Truck reached out to myself. I'd done a bit of contracting work for them prior, and I was able to work with the warehouse manager at the time, and we were still using paper, but I think the turnaround from getting from paper to just getting a bare bone system that we could use, it didn't take too long. I think from when we tried to go live, I think we were 2 or 3 weeks before we had kind of fully had a system. It was tough. Everyone was on edge, new system, different way of picking. People don't like change. But we saw results instantly, and it prolonged this. And then the same thing, not really the same thing, but when we looked at transport systems, the business came to me and asked and said, do you have any recommendations? And I just sent a mail over to you guys, and I said, is by any chance, from a technical side, is there any transport systems that you integrate with out of the box? And you came back and recommended Qargo. So I reached out to them, liked what they had. It definitely suited our style and the way we run transport and the operation that we have. It suited that. So we said, okay, we went and we had a few conversations with a few others, but ultimately I was pushing for a direct integration because I knew if we had have gone down the Excel, we'd never be out of Excel. We'd be using Excel in some shape or form. So I was trying to eliminate that, eliminate paper at the same time. And yeah, the both systems linked up, and it was very quick to get them up. Qargo took relatively the same time. So it was tough. I'm not going to lie, they were short days. They were definitely long days, especially for me with just being the one there that had to learn both systems. But we done it, and you know, the results came in straight away. It wasn't, everyone got the grasp of how it was going to work. Training happened while we were going live as well, and there was a couple of webinars that our teams did, just to learn the system. And when we had real-time run-throughs with, you know, our warehouse manager and myself going through how to do certain aspects. So it was tough, I'm not going to lie. But as soon as we had them implemented, you know, it took the pressure off everyone, and that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, exactly. Just two more points, I guess. The first one is just to thank everyone. You know, thank everyone for joining, but also thank you, Connor, Sam, Matt. Thanks a lot for your time. Second point and final point is that we are going to be having a live event in May. Clarus and Qargo are going to get together and do a live event, demoing how the softwares work together, but also to talk through any kind of questions. We're currently working on a physical space, but the date is the 27th of May this year. There will be emails going out, but please, if you feel free, the spaces will be going very quickly. We've already had quite a lot of interest. So as soon as you see those emails and those posts going out on social media, do sign up, come and see the system in place. So put that in your diary, 27th of May, and the location will be confirmed in the coming weeks. Okay, thanks a lot for your time, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you later, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.